step requires garnering a following through indoctrination, not only of the masses, but also of the politically motivated, business leaders and moneymen, and today women. Any rise to power is foreshadowed by persuasive voices whispering, then chattering loudly behind the scenes. As the movement gathers pace, metaphoric microphones are put under the enablers' noses, and their words bleat out at us through megaphones of one ilk or another, before their messages are finally transformed into print or broadcast media, and more readily today, across social media. There are many analogues in history. As a biographer and historian, I believe that the past matters. History matters. Facts matter. But above all else, context matters. Changing history and facts, cancelling them as if they did not exist, or changing them to suit some 21st century weaponized truism, is another form of propaganda and lie. Just as in the days of Hitler's rise to power, when the powerful preyed on others' hopes and fears, propaganda and lies can still work their magic on the minds of individuals and nations today. That is why, in my opinion, it is so important to understand those murky puppeteers behind the scenes. That is also why I am a firm believer in democracy, freedom of the press, and freedom of speech, for all its tremendous messiness and contradictions. If we lose the power of informed debate, we become unable to avoid unfairness in society and to value differing viewpoints. Worse, we lose democracy. We must learn from our past mistakes and triumphs, not colour them with a false paintbrush of bias or opinion, or reinvent definitions for existing words, calling the truth a lie. Or we shall never learn to become better people and leave a healthier, happier, safer planet behind us for our children and grandchildren. Hitler's mastery was not the big lie, but rather in getting millions to believe it. The Treaty of Versailles, combined with the rhetoric and position of his powerful enablers within a bankrupt Germany, made his rise possible. Once his revised history took hold to make Germany great again, he dragged those who feared another war toward the halfway house of appeasement. The elite appeasers mistakenly believed they could contain the criminal megalomaniac who was Hitler, while failing to rearm their own countries. Some of these elite appeasers often became the Hitler's Aristocrats referred to in the title of the book, to capture the essence of how people thought, acted, and accepted the new isms, communism, socialism, fascism, Nazism, in their own rapidly changing foreign country. I put Hitler's aristocrats' actions within the historical context of their times. The key to understanding their world and ensuring crimes against humanity never happen again means that we need to understand why things happened, who facilitated the outcomes, and why they succeeded or failed. In the main, this is a book about the influencers and enablers who actively worked toward blinding Germany, Great Britain, and the United States to what Hitler and his fellow criminals were doing. Women, who have been previously written out of the history simply because they were women, will take their rightful place alongside the men, for good or ill. I specifically do not study the French point of view, because the French experience was vastly different from the Anglo-American alliance that grew and flourished in the period. Where appropriate, however, I do mention what was happening in France. I have had to be selective in writing about these people. There were literally hundreds. So to qualify as one of my aristocrats, the main prerequisite was that they strode on an international stage that particularly affected Germany, Britain, and America, exerting their power on world events. They were active propagandists, political hostesses, bankers, members of parliaments or Congress, the nobility, diplomats, spies, industrialists, and, as a group, Multinational.